come si è potuto formare? Ma questo è... È esattamente come quello della nave. Ne sono certa. No, non può essere. Lei è... Legiana. Perché ce ne sono così tanti? Ma quello! Non abbiamo mai visto un Legiana così. Se non ci sbrighiamo a raggiungerla... Ricevuto. Collega, so di poter contare su di te.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, Douglas and Diggets, it's your man Dak Donaway, aka the Dig Dug himself, and today we're going to take a look at Shrieking Legiana. Now, a couple of things I must note off the jump. Today is the 7th of November, almost said September, that'd be crazy, like, no way. Anyway, but today's the 7th of November, and today that I speak of, the Resident Evil DLC crossover, I guess, is probably a more valid way to say this, is launching today. So this video will come first, and then I will actually get to the Resident Evil video. In that video, however, we do fight a Black Veil Hazak. We've yet to actually get to him in this particular series because I've been very slow at uploading on this series. I mean, ridiculously slow. However, I will make a separate Black Veil Hazak video, and I will make a video for the Resident Evil collaboration. I won't go into grand detail on the Black Veil Hazak himself, due in part to the fact that that information will be reserved for the actual Resident Evil video. Nevertheless, that video for the Black Veil Hazak will probably launch tomorrow, in coinciding with the Fulgor Agenauth video. Fingers crossed, hopefully, because the one issue with that is this monster right here. So Shrieking Legiana is an incredibly annoying monster to fight. Now, if you fought Legiana, G rank or high rank, however, it's essentially the same beast, but imagine Kush, the new age Kush, the Kush that does not like to touch the ground, very similar to that of the Rathalos Humo, which doesn't like to touch the ground whatsoever. Shrieking Legiana does not like to touch the ground, and it makes for a very, not necessarily a daunting, but a arguably annoying fight. Now, there's a couple of things you can actually do to actually make the Legiana either touch the ground or fight it in its favor. One way is flash pods. Now, flash pods have been nerfed from what it used to be back in the standard world, so it's not going to be incredibly effective, but it's still a great means of actually getting the monster out of the sky, especially when you're like, dude, get out of the sky, I'm tired of you doing whatever you're doing, the madness that you're actually producing. Chill, no pun intended. So you do that, or you can actually do, what's it called? Clutch Claw. You can Clutch Claw the monster and actually do, I forget exactly what it is, but if you have slinger ammo in your inventory, so to speak, and you R2 or rate trigger, whatever, into a monster's head, as it gets to a wall, it will actually slam into the wall and fall down. That's a great way to actually do that as well. These methods are actually very useful to actually get the monster to touch the ground. However, in this video, I didn't do essentially any of these things, simply because the whole purpose of me doing these videos is to show you that I can do this without no actual gimmicks, just me, the weapon in hand, and that's essentially it. And also, I didn't like get a chance to mount this monster because there's not a whole lot of areas where I can actually mount, especially with the gun lance, but nevertheless, here we go. So What makes this monster interesting, and nevertheless not interesting, what makes this monster difficult is the fact that, due in part to its ability to actually stay in flight, and it's the way in which it actually produces the ice element. Now, the ice element it produces is the same as every ice element, but the way in which it produces is actually a little different. Usually, I would say usually, in order to actually get afflicted with ice blight, you must first be hit with an actual, I'm not going to call it a physical, but an actual ice attack. Legiana swipe that off to the side. You don't need to get hit with any actual attack. It will produce snow, that's what I'm going to call it, on the ground. This snow, when walked upon, will give you ice blight. It produces a large amount of this. This was something that the Legiana in the world actually did. So Shrieking still does it to an even better degree. It actually has quite a few ways in which it'll produce this, on top of the fact that it will variably get you prepared to fight Volcana, or as I like to refer to him as, Vanilla Ice. Why? Because him throwing the snow on the ground actually produces what I'm going to lovingly refer to, or unlovingly or hatefully refer to, as glaciers, ice glaciers, roaming ice glaciers, where he'll throw the snow and then it looks like snow. Then like a second later, they spring into giant glaciers that do the actual damage. That stuff actually kind of hurts, so you really want to watch out for it. So word of advice here: when fighting Legiana, it's gonna do this. Okay, it's gonna produce the snow, and it's gonna produce the glaciers shortly afterwards. So you're gonna want to, when you see it wind up for the attack, completely get out of the way of the attack. Even though the attack itself initially doesn't do damage, it will do damage. It's a setup. It's a bait. It's to get you to be get you to lull yourself into a false sense of security. It's like, oh, he threw snow at me. Dude, snow is nothing. You know, you think, because I mean, snow is nothing. But then you get hit with a whole ass ice glacier. That's a problem. So watch out for that. It does this with a lot of its attacks. It still has the spinning spiral, icy spinny thingy. That's what I'm calling it. Deal with it, but you know what I'm talking about. It says that attack. It says the attack where it actually slams its tail down on the ground using ice, and will also produce snow and ice afterwards. There's another attack that it does is actually incredibly strong. However, though, the more I fight it, the more I realize, dude, screw this monster, and I don't really want to actually get a full-on great view on this attack. It's just, it hits very hard. Okay, so when fighting it, you want to go in with the best ice resistance you can. You can either gem it in yourself. I recommend just going in with something that's already relatively decent against ice resistance, and then maybe jamming in more, doing only parts of the fact that it will do less, or better yet, ice-proof mantle. Boom, there you go. Go in there with an ice-proof mantle and some decent ice resistance in and of itself, because the ice-proof mantle will run off. So that way you're not gonna get hit with a large amount of ice damage. When you do get hit with ice damage, it'll make it a lot easier to actually fight. Now, if you're looking at the video footage right now, I'm actually fighting Shrieking Legiana and Legiana. Why in the world I didn't bring dung pods? Because I'm stupid. But this video, the raw footage for this video was 34 minutes because of this exact endeavor right here. I fought it again last night as I speak, just for making more armor and whatnot and other things or whatever. And I fought actually two Shrieking Legiana. One of these Shrieking Legiana transformed to a regular Legiana, dead ass, and also Savage Joe. That took 49 minutes. That was a very fun quest. No, it wasn't. So, what I'm going to say here is that Shrieking Legiana is incredibly annoying, due in part to the fact that it actually has all the things that make it annoying. The inability for it to actually touch the ground, the unfair combativeness that it is, its snow into ice, into tail slam, into not touching the ground, into the fact that Legiana will almost always show up with it and never, ever, ever fight amongst each other. So, fighting this monster is a chore in and of itself, on top of the fact that it's really kitted out to be twice as annoying. It is a variant of the Legiana, not a subspecies, a variant. It's just a Legiana that's going through some trippy stuff in its life, due in part that it's really infatuated with ice and not liking to touch the ground. So again, if you're let's say a sword and shield user, you want to use everything in your kit to actually make it to where you and the monster fight on even terms, i.e. on the ground. I've said this 30 times already, so that way you can actually do relatively decent damage. If you're a gunner, you don't care. Actually, if you're a gunner, you're happier that it probably stays in the air, because if it stays in the air, you can actually hit it with all sorts of cool things. And when it hits the ground, it will hit the ground in a crumpled state where you can actually spam all sorts of goodies at it. So the thing to take away from Shrieking Legiana is that it isn't super hard, it's just really annoying. It fights essentially the same as any other Legiana, with like a couple of new tricks hither and thither. Honestly, it literally fights like, if you've played high rank Legiana and not fought a G rank Legiana yet, it feels like a G rank Legiana fight. truth be told, is probably a weaker type of variant. I'm sure Legiana itself fights different from Shrieking Legiana, but honestly, it's nothing that it has is drastic to the point where like, whoa, look at this right here, it's so crazy. No, it's Legiana antics. So with that out the way, let's talk about the gear. It's kind of cool looking, but not necessarily all that great. Okay, so the Shrieking Legiana armor is kind of cool looking. I'll admit it's great in the alpha, at least for the... Actually, no, it's great. I have my male character. It's great for both the females and the male character. Alpha looks great. The beta looks great. Now, going back to the alpha, the skills we're looking at right off the jump is focus, marathon running, hunger resistance, evade extender, critical draw, and spread power shots with your bow charge plus. So essentially, just off the rip, you can kind of look at this and be like, you know what? This set is geared towards bows. Focus being a great skill to use for bows because it reduces the charge time. Marathon runner decreases the amount of stamina usage from doing things that deplete stamina readily, like sprinting or charging, or sprinting or charging, like charging as in like your hammer would charge to get the big slap. The bow would charge so that way you can actually fire your arrows, those kind of charges. I'll give you the exact slaps right here. Boom. So reduces continuous stamina depletion by 50%. Nice. Going over to evade extender, allowing you to actually evade further out the way. Really good skill to actually have. Focus, like I said before, and spread power shots. Because I mean, like, yo, why not? Critical draw, a great skill to actually have, essentially on top of the fact that it's good for the bow. Because if you're kind of like me, who uses like bows or guns like that, I put my weapon away a lot and then whip it out later on. That actually works very well in this particular case. And the ambition is the maximum bow charge increased level, maximum bow charge level by 1. Increases it, that is. So it's a skill for the bows out there. So shout outs to that. I mean, that's really cool. Granted, it's not really so much for us blade master users, but we can actually still get some use out of it. Evade extender and focus and marathon runner are very good skills to actually have in any particular guard, no matter what weapon you're really using. Evade extender, for the most part, I could think off the top of my head, is great for gun lance because focus 3 is there. They're on artillery 3 and maybe some guard, and then you have a really decent long sight gun lance out there. But nevertheless, this is definitely for the bows. And the beta, it follows relatively closely suit, loses a couple of points here and there, but ultimately still a relatively decent armor. Now the weapons, trash. Let's be real here, guys. Legiana weapons were never good. Never good. They were never good. Okay, they weren't. Kush weapons were better. Now, Kush weapons are tier 2. Tier 1 will be the flagship monster, and Legiana weapons are outclassed by Burial, in my opinion. So Legiana weapons are trash. They have incredibly low attack. They do have good sharpness. They have high element, but they're still trash. So don't pick them up. Like, I know I'm being very belligerent here. I usually like to spread this out a lot more evenly, make it a little less biased, but I really mean that its weapons are pretty bad. You can still find some use out of it because they are relatively sharp. So if you have, like, let's say you have Handicraft 5, you can have an incredibly long amount of purple sharpness, and when using the numbers and the multipliers and whatnot, it can give you some decent damage. But in my full-on opinion, you would have to fight a monster that's dangerously susceptible to that of ice for it to actually really show its true colors. Maybe like a Diablos or something like that. But other than that, there are better ice weapons out of there. Yeah, there's just flat out a better ice weapon out there. And then if you're not in that particular range of that, there are better, like Kush and Barioth, in my own opinion. But nevertheless, as weapons, if you just gotta have it because you like the look, go for it. They're not useless, but they're the worst ice weapons out. Okay, so in summary, Shrieking Legiana is the first variant you really fight in this game. You fought other monsters kind of like it, but those are actually subspecies. Monsters taking on a different connotation due in part to where in which they live, and that's just kind of how they are. They're born and raised like this. Whereas a variant is a monster just going through some stuff in its life. Very similar to a deviant, but the lines making them slightly different or relatively blurred, and I'm not really going to go into that because there's a whole different means to what makes what and how they differ from others. So with that being said, I will say the Shrieking Legiana, while it is a really cool fight, like a cool monster to look at visually and kind of stuff it does, it is ultimately a super annoying fight, and especially when the monster itself saw a lot of screen time in the Monster Hunter Iceborne marketing, it's not a monster you're like, wow, that was awesome, let's do it again. It's a monster that you will probably never see the armor to, because I don't see this monster's armor, because it is an incredibly annoying monster to fight with an armor set that isn't bad. By no means is it really bad. It's just that you don't want to fight this monster a lot. No one that I know, even when Legiana was just the first and the only ice monster, no one I knew ever really sat down and was like, yo, I'm gonna make some Legiana stuff. In all my thousands of hours, thousands with an S, of playing this game, I've not seen maybe over 4 sets of Legiana armor total. So it's not a very popular monster. The gear isn't actually very, very good. You kind of have to use a lot of its parts to do other things. Now, I will say its heavy bowgun is actually really nice. Let me take that back. People really like its heavy bowgun because it's a really good pure shot bowgun. But nevertheless, in the grand scheme of things, the gear isn't really something that people look after to get. It's not very sought after, not very desired. But nevertheless, it's still very solid. So I mean, you can run it if you like. If you like bows and you're not like super into like the 100% optimizing of certain things, you could probably run it and get away with it. Heck, you can actually probably mix it with the standard Legiana stuff and actually come out with something really cool on top of that as well. But nevertheless, the Shrieking Legiana is a relatively annoying monster. It does have its perks. It does have a lot of cool things about it going forward. It ties very well into the location. There's a lot of cool things in that regard. However, in my honest opinion, it's a monster that you will fight once, maybe twice, heck, even 3 times. Maybe get that armor here. Maybe get a weapon. Who knows? But you'll probably never go back to fight it again. It's not an ultimately boring monster. It's just a monster that isn't worth the trouble. Elder Dragons are worth the trouble because they have the most powerful weapons in the game. This monster's frustration to you and to me is on level with that, but probably more akin to that of Rathalos. But then again, Rathalos has some of the best fire weapons in the game, so you kind of have to go and do that. On top of that, his armor is actually very, very good. But nevertheless, that's Shrieking Legiana. I kind of understand this video worked a different kind of note. It fits slightly more into a monster analysis style video that I kind of do. But I just kind of felt like it needed to be said. A monster like this really need to be said because, truth be told, it is definitely going to find its way into my least favorite monsters list of all time very soon because of the way in which it actually fights. And actually, yeah, because of that. But nevertheless, guys, understand this. If you go in here with some fire and a lot of patience and some dunk pods and a slight remembrance of how to fight Legiana, you'll do fine. Nevertheless, it's been your boy. You all take care. See you on Full Gore.